When my father's will was read, my brothers burst into open laughter, as if it were a comedic skit. They inherited Dad's tech empire, valued at a colossal $22 million, while I received his old laptop. It felt like the perfect embodiment of family disappointment, specifically designed to emphasize my role as an outsider. Roderick, my older brother, smirked smugly, adjusting his impeccable Italian suit as if he already sat on the CEO's throne. But when I tried to sell this seemingly useless laptop to pay my rent, the potential buyer's hands began to tremble noticeably. "This isn't just a laptop," he whispered, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. "This is proof that could destroy everything." Just 3 months ago, I was certain I understood my place in the family hierarchy. I was the youngest, the screw-up, the son who preferred flipping burgers to ambitiously building business empires. While my older brothers, Roderick and Sterling, conquered Wall Street, I was perfectly content managing a small Italian restaurant, delighting customers with every plate of pasta. On that fateful morning of the will reading, I received a message from Roderick: "Please try not to embarrass us today." Sterling added his caustic remark: "Wear something decent for once." They had always been an inseparable team, those two. 35-year-old Roderick, with a prestigious Harvard MBA and impeccable hair, ran the Eastern Division of Dad's company. 32-year-old Sterling, a Yale graduate and ruthless strategist, was in charge of the West Coast. And then there was me, 28, a college dropout, the owner of only 2 suits acquired from thrift stores. The lawyer's office, where the will was to be read, reeked of expensive leather and old money. My brothers sat on either side of Dad's lawyer, Mr. Whitmore, as if already dividing their future inheritance. I took the furthest chair, the one with a wobbly leg that creaked with every movement. Somehow, it felt symbolic. "Before we begin," Mr. Whitmore said, cleaning his glasses with excessive care, "your father wanted me to read a personal note." Roderick leaned forward, mentally calculating his share. Sterling pulled out his phone, probably to notify his broker. I just sat there, wondering if Dad had even remembered to mention me in the will. "To my sons," Whitmore began, "I leave what each of you has earned." This should have been our first warning. Dad never spoke in riddles. He was always a straightforward man who built Data Vault Industries by saying exactly what he meant. But my brothers were too busy mentally counting millions to notice the strange wording. "To Roderick Vernon Harmon and Sterling Pierce Harmon, I leave equal shares of Data Vault Industries, including all assets, patents, and liquid funds, currently valued at $22 million. They actually high-fived each other right there in the lawyer's office during the reading of their late father's will. They high-fived each other as if they had just won the Super Bowl. "To Dexter Coleman Harmon," Whitmore continued, and I straightened up. "I leave my personal ThinkPad laptop model T480, serial number VH1T551. May it serve him better than his choices." The ensuing silence was deafening. Then Sterling began to laugh, not a smirk, not a chuckle, but a loud, booming laugh that echoed off the wood-paneled walls. "Oh my God," he croaked, tears streaming down his face. "He left you his laptop, his actual laptop. What are you going to do? Update your resume?" Roderick was more restrained but no less cruel. "I suppose it's logical. Dad always said you needed to learn to appreciate hard work. Maybe you can Google that." Mr. Whitmore slid a thick paper envelope across the table to me. Inside was a note in Dad's handwriting: "To the one who sees beyond the numbers." Beneath it lay the laptop, wrapped in an old fleece jacket I recognized from Dad's wardrobe. "Gentlemen," Whitmore said, clearly embarrassed by my brother's reaction, "there are additional documents regarding the transfer of the company." "Send them to our lawyers," Roderick said, standing and buttoning his jacket. "We have a company to run." "We have a company to run," was the dry statement that sealed Dexter's fate in his father's office. Without bothering to say goodbye, Dexter's brothers left, embarking on their triumphant procession to their newfound empire. Dexter remained alone, clutching an outdated 9-year-old laptop. The humiliation and his father's blatant disregard, seeing him as nothing, weren't the worst parts. The most painful was the absence of his mother, the only person who might have supported him in this situation. She had divorced his father when Dexter was 10, no longer able to recognize the man he had become. The divorce was accompanied by bitter legal battles, where his father portrayed her as unstable and insane, obsessed with conspiracy theories about his business. The court sided with him. His mother received meager alimony and a non-disclosure agreement. In gaining her freedom, she lost her credibility. Dexter's decision to live with her rather than his father cost him his relationship with both his father and his brothers. The laptop gathered dust in his apartment for about 2 weeks until an eviction notice arrived. It was then that Dexter decided to sell the only thing his father thought he deserved. His father had no idea that this device held evidence capable of destroying the empire his brothers believed was rightfully theirs. Nona's Table, the Italian restaurant where Dexter had spent the last 5 years, was a modest establishment in downtown Portland, with checkered tablecloths and the best carbonara on the West Coast. The owner, Mr. Benedetti, hired him as a waiter, but appreciating his ability to connect with customers, promoted him to manager in just 6 months. Dexter loved the place with all his heart, the scent of garlic and basil permeating his clothes, the regulars whose allergies and important dates he knew by heart, the opera arias Mr. Benedetti would sing while kneading dough in the mornings. His father never understood his passion. During their rare phone calls, he invariably asked the same question: "When are you going to get a real job?" A restaurant manager, Dexter Harmon, was beneath the dignity of a man from the Harmon family, which was supposed to consist of industry titans, not people serving others. But Dexter saw what this titanism had done to his father. It had transformed him from the father who taught him to ride a bike into a stranger who measured love with stock options and expressed affection through expensive gifts. The day after the will reading, Dexter returned to his studio apartment above a dry cleaner, where a faint scent of chemicals always lingered. The laptop lay on his kitchen table next to a stack of overdue bills. He tried to turn it on, but the device was password protected. The hint read, "The day everything changed." Dexter tried his father's birthday, the company's founding date, and even the day he made his first million, but all was futile. At that moment, his phone vibrated with a message from his mother. "How did it go, dear?" "About as expected," Dexter replied. "Roderick and Sterling got everything. I got Dad's old laptop." His mother called immediately. "Oh, Dexter, I'm so sorry." "It's okay, Mom. We both knew this would happen." "It's not okay. You're his son, too. You deserved better." Francine Harmon was the strongest woman he knew, but there was pain in her voice. She blamed herself for his estrangement from his father, believing that if she had stayed married, he wouldn't have lost his father. But she didn't understand that Vernon Harmon had stopped being his father long before she left. "How's the restaurant?" she asked, trying to change the subject. Dexter glanced at the eviction notice taped to the refrigerator. "Closed. Mr. Benedetti didn't survive the pandemic. Too many months without customers, too much debt." "Why didn't you tell me?" "What would you have done, Mom? You live on Social Security and the severance Dad gave you. I won't take your money." "You're as stubborn as your father. Please don't say that." She sighed. "I mean the good version of him, the man I married, before Data Vault, before money changed him. Long before greed and power corrupted his soul, we spent another hour together, exchanging cautious phrases, avoiding any mention of my brothers or corporate affairs." She spoke of her flourishing garden, a captivating detective novel that engrossed her attention, and the brazen neighborhood cat that made off with her morning newspaper. Mundane, safe topics that didn't touch on painful issues. Neither of us mentioned that rent was due in 5 days, or that I had only $47 left in my bank account. After the call ended, I opened my old laptop and began browsing job listings. Restaurant manager positions in Portland offered decent salaries, but all required fresh references. Mr. Benedetti, my former mentor, had returned to Italy to care for his ailing mother. My previous job was a mobile food truck that had gone out of business. My resume resembled a graveyard of failed ventures. It was at this moment that my attention was drawn back to my father's old laptop. Even though it was outdated, it might be of interest to collectors or vintage tech enthusiasts. ThinkPads had a loyal following, especially older models that could be restored and upgraded. Perhaps I could get $300, maybe even $500 for it if I found the right buyer. That would allow me to postpone eviction for at least a month while I tried to figure things out. I took several photos of the laptop from different angles, trying to capture the model number and its overall condition. Despite being 9 years old, it looked almost new. My father was always meticulous about his belongings. Even his old things looked like they still had value. I posted an ad on several online platforms. Vintage ThinkPad T480, excellent condition, runs flawlessly, $300 or best offer, urgent sale. Less than 10 minutes later, I received 5 responses. One offered $200, another asked for more photos, a third asked if shipping to Canada was possible. The fourth message was spam, but the fifth message made me freeze in surprise. I will give you $500 cash today, no questions asked. My name is Milo Thatcher, and I believe this laptop belonged to Vernon Harmon. If you are his son, we need to talk. I met Milo Thatcher at a coffee shop called The Daily Grind, a place I chose specifically for its constant crowds and multiple exits. Perhaps I was overly cautious, but something about his message made me feel uneasy. $500 for a 9-year-old laptop was too generous, as was the fact that he knew the laptop belonged to my father. Milo was not at all what I had imagined. He was painfully thin, probably in his mid-40s, with nervous hands that constantly adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses. He wore a crumpled shirt and worn khaki pants. When I walked in, carrying the bag with the laptop, his eyes fixated on it like a predator spotting its prey. "Dexter Harmon?" he asked, rising slightly from his corner table. "That's me, you're Milo." He nodded, gesturing for me to sit opposite him. His coffee cup was empty, but he kept bringing it to his lips, a nervous habit that made me feel even more awkward. "You look like your father," he said. "The same strong jaw, the same piercing gaze." "Thanks for the reminder. You mentioned $500. He pulled out an envelope and placed it on the table, but didn't let go. "First, I need to check something. Can you open the laptop?" I took it out of the bag and placed it on the table. "It's password protected. I was planning to wipe it for a buyer." "Don't!" His voice was sharp, demanding. "What's the password hint?" "The day everything changed. I've tried every possible option. No luck." Milo quickly typed something on the keyboard. The screen unlocked instantly. "How did you know the password?" "October 15th, 2019, he said quietly. "The day your mother filed for divorce." My heart pounded. "Who are you?" "Someone who has been tracking your father's activities for the past 7 years. He turned the screen towards me. "Look at this." On the desktop was a folder titled Project Phoenix, containing dozens of subfolders. The names of these folders sent a chill down my spine. Offshore accounts, bribes to congressmen, falsified FDA data, deleted safety reports, witness elimination protocols. In Dexter's hands were not just financial reports, but chilling witness elimination protocols. Milo, lowering his voice to a whisper, informed him that his father's company's $22 million fortune was just the tip of the iceberg. Another $45 million were hidden in secret accounts scattered across a dozen countries. But the money, he said, paled in comparison to the true contents of these files. At that moment, Dexter's phone vibrated, insistently demanding an answer. Roderick, then Sterling, alternately cut off the connection. Milo stated the obvious: they knew. The laptop, having connected to the Wi-Fi, had revealed its location. Data Vault realized that the artifact had been activated and contained dangerous information. The brothers' calls, Milo said, had nothing to do with brotherly love. After the 10th call, Dexter gave in. Roderick, in an unnaturally friendly tone, inquired about his brother's whereabouts. Dexter, surprised by such an address, couldn't help but notice the change in rhetoric. Roderick, along with Sterling, assured him that their father had made a mistake by depriving him of a share in the company. They, supposedly, were ready to correct this injustice. Sterling's voice, coming from the speaker, confirmed the seriousness of their intentions. The brothers offered Dexter $2 million in cash in exchange for their father's laptop, which, they said, contained proprietary software belonging to Data Vault. Dexter didn't miss the opportunity to remind them of their past disdain for the useless old computer. Roderick, hastily interrupting, explained that the laptop contained confidential client data, posing a security threat. It needed to be returned. Dexter paused to think, but Sterling, changing his tone to threatening, stated that the laptop was company property, and if he refused to return it, they would be forced to contact their lawyers. Dexter, unwilling to continue this farce, hung up. Milo, gathering his belongings, decided to lay out his cards. He wasn't an interested buyer, but an investigative journalist from the Washington Post. His father's company, which produced software for medical devices, had discovered fatal flaws in the encryption system of pacemakers 3 years ago. Instead of recalling the products, they chose to conceal this fact. Milo laid out photos of 17 people who had fallen victim to this crime. Hackers, exploiting the vulnerability, had remotely deactivated their pacemakers. His father and brothers knew about this, but approved the cover-up for the sake of a successful company IPO. Dexter's hands trembled. He couldn't believe his father had caused the deaths of these people. But that wasn't all. Milo produced another photo, a recent picture of Dexter's mother. It turned out she hadn't left his father for no reason. She had learned about Project Phoenix and tried to expose it. His father, in turn, destroyed her reputation, arranged surveillance, hacked her email, and threatened her if she revealed the information. Dexter, sitting in the coffee shop, looked at the faces of 17 dead people while his phone wouldn't stop ringing. Each photo had a story. Marcus Chen, 42, programmer, father of 3, Dorothy Palmer, 67, library volunteer, Tyler Morrison, 16, swimmer, high school team member. All of them victims of his father's greed, who prioritized profit over human lives. Dexter, in a hollow voice, said he needed to call his mother. Milo informed him that he had already contacted her last week, having tracked the laptop. She had been waiting for this moment for years. Dexter, with trembling fingers, dialed her number. She answered instantly, warning him against any offers from his brothers. Dexter told her about his father's responsibility for the deaths of 17 people. She corrected him. There were 23 victims. 6 more people had died since Milo began his investigation. She had tried to stop his father, but he only laughed in response, assuring her that she understood nothing about business. When she threatened to go to the FBI, he launched a full campaign against her, fabricated evidence of mental instability, bribed doctors to diagnose her with a paranoid disorder, and even created fake medical records. She was given a choice: quietly leave with a small allowance and a non-disclosure agreement, or end up in a psychiatric hospital where 3 doctors would confirm her danger to herself and others. In the current situation, it was clear that my continued freedom could pose a threat to both myself and others. My phone was ringing off the hook with calls from my brothers. Their persistence had reached a critical 37 missed calls. Why didn't you say anything about this? I couldn't contain my outrage. What evidence could I have presented? He meticulously destroyed all my clues, but I knew for a fact that he kept records. Your father was obsessed with documentation. It was his kind of insurance. I just didn't know where to look for them, she replied bitterly. So he gave them to me. Perhaps a conscience awoke in him near the end of his life, or he understood that his true legacy had to die with him, I mused. Milo, like a predator, leaned forward, his eyes burning with determination. We can stop them, Dexter. The FBI will take this seriously, but as soon as your brothers realize we have incriminating evidence, they'll destroy all traces of the crimes at the company. We need to act immediately. Images of those 17 innocent victims flashed through my mind. My mother stood before my eyes, slandered and branded insane for trying to uncover the truth. I saw my brothers, ready to step over dead bodies to protect their exorbitant fortune. They're insisting I bring the laptop to the office, I said, as if pronouncing my own sentence. That's perfect, Milo exclaimed, his eyes lighting up with anticipation. We'll use it to our advantage. You want me to walk into their trap? I asked incredulously. No, I want them to walk into ours. I've been collecting evidence on this case for years, but I needed that laptop to prove everything. Your brothers themselves have given us the opportunity to record their confessions. I called Roderick back. He answered instantly, as if he'd been waiting for my call. Finally, Dex, where have you been? I've thought about your offer. And $2 million is clearly not enough for something you're so desperate to get your hands on. Sterling, not letting me finish, interrupted. How much do you want? $5 million in cash tonight. Agreed, Roderick blurted out without the slightest hesitation. At that moment, I realized the destructive power of the information stored in those files. Meet me at the office by 8. The building will be empty. Just us. I'll be there, he promised. Immediately after my call, Milo contacted an FBI agent. Agent Rivera, this is Thatcher. They'll be at Data Vault headquarters tonight at 8. He paused, listening intently to the person on the other end. Yes, he agreed to wear a wire. Wait, what? I blurted out. Milo ended the call. The FBI has been investigating Data Vault for 2 years, but they've never been able to get inside. Your brothers invited you themselves. This is our chance. You want me to go to a meeting with my brothers, wired up like in some cheap crime movie? I asked doubtfully. I want you to get justice for those 23 people who can no longer stand up for themselves. I looked at the photos again. Tyler Morrison would be 19 now, maybe in college. Dorothy Palmer would be cradling her newborn grandchild. Marcus Chen's children would have a father. There's something else in those files, Milo said quietly. Your father's death wasn't natural. What? I exclaimed. 3 days before he died, your brothers changed his heart medication. The new prescription was incompatible with other medications he was taking. Whether they knew this or not, I can't say, but their signatures are on the cancellation of the old prescription. The coffee shop suddenly felt cramped and stuffy. Could my brothers have killed our father? The man who gave them everything. They could have taken his life for their own gain. I need some fresh air, I muttered. Dexter, I understand. This is a lot of information to take in all at once, Milo tried to reassure me. A lot? I just found out my entire family is built on murder and lies. My brothers may have committed patricide. My mother was deceived and intimidated. And now you want me to walk into their lair, wired up like in some cheap crime movie. I want you to be the Harmon who does the right thing, Milo simply replied. I thought of my life, managing Nona's table, serving honest food to good people. I remembered Mr. Benedetti, singing opera arias while making pasta from scratch. It was the life I chose, away from my family's toxic influence. But now that poison had reached me here. All right, I conceded. I'll do it. Data Vault Industries occupied a gleaming 20-story tower in the heart of Portland, an embodiment of glass and steel ambition. I stood in the empty lobby at precisely 8:00 p.m., the laptop bag heavy on my shoulder, and the FBI wire taped to my chest seemed to burn through my shirt. Agent Rivera had instructed me for 2 hours on what to say, what to ask, how to provoke my brothers into a confession, but no amount of preparation could quell my pounding heart. The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. My heart pounded fiercely, like a bird caught in a cage. The elevator ride to the top of the skyscraper felt agonizingly long. When the doors parted, Roderick was sitting at an enormous red table, as if born to power. Sterling, in contrast, paced nervously by the panoramic windows, which offered a breathtaking view of the city sprawling below. Well, look who it is, Roderick said, rising with a strained smile that didn't reach his eyes. Our little brother finally decided to show up. Let's get this over with, I cut in, entering the luxurious conference room. Sterling silently followed me, closing the door behind him. The laptop first, then the money, Roderick sneered. You've been in the clouds for too long. Do you really think we carry $5 million in cash? Then we have a slight snag. No, you have a serious problem, Sterling retorted, shedding his hypocritical friendliness. That laptop contains stolen property, intellectual property belonging to Data Vault Industries. You can hand it over now and get your money, or we'll call the police, and you'll be arrested for corporate theft. I casually placed the laptop bag on the polished conference table. Before we do that, I want to clarify something. Were you aware of the pacemaker defect? The brothers froze, as if struck by lightning. What pacemaker defect are you talking about? Roderick asked cautiously. The one that caused the deaths of 17 people, or rather, 23? Sterling moved closer, menacingly. How do you know that? Does it matter? I'm just curious if you knew people would die when you signed the order to cover it up. Business requires difficult decisions, Roderick stated cynically. A product recall would have destroyed the company. Thousands of people would have lost their jobs. Pension funds would have been wiped out. Sometimes the interests of the majority outweigh the interests of the minority. So you all knew. We knew of a theoretical vulnerability, Sterling reluctantly admitted. The probability of it occurring was negligible. Tell that to Tyler Morrison's parents. He was only 16. How do you know that name? Roderick's voice turned sharply threatening. I took out the laptop and opened it. Because everything is here. Every document, every email, every piece of evidence of the cover-up. I connected the device to the enormous conference room screen. Father had kept meticulous records. The first document appeared on the screen. Order of elimination, Francine Harmon, final decision. Sterling's face turned as white as a sheet. What is this? It's a contract Dad took out on Mom. He hired professionals to kill her if she exposed Project Phoenix. Notice the signatures at the bottom. Both brothers leaned over the screen in astonishment. Their names were there. Roderick V. Harmon, Sterling P. Harmon. We never signed this, Roderick protested agitatedly. We sign hundreds of documents every day. Someone planted this. So you admit you signed documents without reading them? Documents that could condemn a person to death? That's not what I meant. I moved to the next file. And what about this? Request for prescription change. Vernon Harmon. 3 days before Dad died, you both authorized changing his heart medication to a drug that lethally interacted with his other medications. We were trying to help him, Sterling exclaimed desperately. His doctor recommended this change. Which doctor? Because according to these records, you ignored Dr. Say. Mitchell's explicit warnings about drug interactions. The conference room door burst open with a crash. Nobody move! FBI! Agents in body armor stormed the room, weapons drawn on the brothers. Agent Rivera entered next, holding her badge high. Roderick Harmon, Sterling Harmon, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and violation of federal regulations governing medical devices. You set us up, Roderick snarled as handcuffs clicked on his wrists. Betrayed your own brothers? No, I replied, opening another file on the laptop. Dad set you up. A video appeared on the screen. It was Dad's face, recorded just 3 days before his death. He looked haggard, aged, but his eyes burned with a clear fire. If you're watching this, Dexter, it means you found the courage I didn't have. I need to tell you the truth. Your brothers are not my biological sons. I found out 5 years ago during a routine medical examination. They are the product of your mother's relationships before we met. She never knew I knew the truth. The revelation of dark past secrets shook Sterling to his core. His legs gave way, and agents had to support him. At that moment, his father's image reappeared on the screen, continuing his confession. He admitted that he had long kept the secret of his mother's past, her life before meeting him, and she had never suspected his knowledge. He explained that he had initially planned to make the brothers his successors, but upon learning of the cruel crimes they committed to protect his empire, he realized the need to stop them. However, lacking the courage to personally face the consequences of his actions, he placed his hopes in Dexter, believing him to be the most worthy of all, the only one who prioritized honesty over profit. After these words, the screen went dark, and silence fell over the room, broken only by Sterling's sobs. Dexter addressed his brothers, explaining that the laptop was never part of the inheritance, but rather proof of their crimes, and their father had ensured it would only fall into the hands of his true son. The ensuing trial dominated the news for 8 months, with headlines like Tech Dynasty Crumbles and Harmon Brothers sentenced to 15 years. All major TV channels and newspapers covered the proceedings, revealing horrific details about Data Vault's victims. Dexter avoided it all, preferring to be with his mother, relearning to live and breathe while Roderick and Sterling served their sentences in federal prison. The FBI confiscated all Data Vault Industries assets, the company was liquidated, and the assets distributed among the families of the 23 victims, each receiving approximately $2 million. This compensation couldn't bring back the deceased, but it gave their children the opportunity to get an education, pay off mortgages, and secure their future. Dexter refused his share of the compensation, explaining to the federal prosecutor that the money was blood money, and he didn't want to build his life on other people's graves. After the ordeal, mother and son became closer than ever. Every Sunday, she cooked roast, his favorite childhood dish, and they talked about everything except the trial. His mother was finally free from the secret that had almost broken her life, and from the fear of Vernon Harmon's influence extending beyond death. The woman once deemed paranoid was vindicated, though it brought her no satisfaction. One evening, sitting on the porch, she confessed to Dexter that she had once loved his father, a man who was not only brilliant and ambitious, but also kind. He brought her flowers every Friday, just because he believed she deserved something beautiful in her ordinary life. She wondered what had changed him, success, or perhaps success merely revealed who he had always been. Milo Thatcher received a Pulitzer Prize for his investigation into Data Vault Industries. He offered to share the award with Dexter, but Dexter declined, believing that Milo had spent 7 years uncovering his father's crimes, while he had merely inherited the evidence. As a token of appreciation, Milo sent him a signed book with the inscription, "To the only honest Harmon." The hardest part for Dexter was learning to live without the weight of the family name. In Portland, everyone knew who he was, the Harmon who brought down the Harmons, the son who chose justice over blood. Some considered him a hero, others a traitor, but he felt neither. 6 months after the trial ended, Dexter found the strength to start a new life. He took out a loan from a small credit union and opened a restaurant called Truth and Table in southeast Portland. Mr. Benedetti, who flew in from Italy, attended the opening to bless the kitchen and sing an aria that moved everyone to tears. Dexter's mother worked the cash register, telling customers stories about recipes inherited from her grandmother. Even Agent Rivera stopped by, ordered carbonara, and left a generous tip. The laptop containing the evidence of the crimes was kept in a safe in Dexter's office, permanently disconnected but not destroyed. Sometimes he would look at it, pondering the weight of truth and how such a small thing could hold enough information to destroy an empire. His father had left Roderick and Sterling millions of dollars, but to Dexter he had given something far more valuable, a chance to choose who he wanted to be. The decision about one's life path can be a turning point, determining not only personal destiny but also influencing the lives of others. The author of the text decided to hire relatives of the victims of his family's crimes. Marcus Chen's daughter, a talented chef, became the sous chef at the restaurant, where she implements her innovative ideas in Korean fusion cuisine, which enjoys immense popularity. Tyler Morrison's mother, working in accounting, found peace in the clarity and transparency of an honest business. One day, a young man came into the restaurant and, after ordering the signature dish, left a note saying that his grandmother was Dorothy Palmer and expressed gratitude for the opportunity for her stories to be heard. This incident helped the author realize that true inheritance lies not in material possessions, but in the moral choices one makes in difficult situations. While the author's brothers, who inherited millions, became embroiled in corruption and ended up in prison, he, having inherited only an old laptop, was able to find his purpose. Every dish served at Truth and Table is prepared with honesty and care. Employees receive fair wages, and customers are treated like family. While it may not be a vast empire, it is a business built on principles of honesty and justice, which is far more valuable than money obtained through dishonest means. Sometimes modest gifts of fate carry deep meaning, and the best revenge against a corrupt legacy can simply be an honest life.